Video games have depicted just about every form of conflict that exists. Melee, ranged, sporting, the conflict within the mind of a Japanese high school student as he decides which member of his social circle he most wants to fuck. But there's one extremely rich theme of conflict that has until now remained completely untapped. The arena of turn-of-the-millennium era reality television. Who of a certain generation does not recall the first time they saw an orange-tinted woman in a leopard print skirt, screaming in a voice like a guinea pig disappearing under a lawnmower, at a glistening shirtless dude with the body of a chiseled Adonis and the head of a 14-year-old with frosted tips, because his homeschooling never taught him not to put baked beans into the dishwasher soap compartment, and thought to themselves, boy, I've never been more conflicted over whether I want to fuck someone or have them rounded up into camps. And speaking of things I have very complicated feelings about, let's talk about Crush House, a new indie game from Devolver Digital that places innovative gameplay design against a setting of retro reality television, and may make you too wonder which aspect most makes you want to put your fist through the screen. Crush House refers to itself as a first-person shooter, then pauses like it's expecting a fucking round of applause. It's a first-person game in which you are the producer of a reality TV show in which four infuriating young attractive people of varying demeanours and interests hang around a Malibu beach house forging friendships and enemyships on a minute-by-minute basis, often with the same people, while throughout the course of each in-game day you point the camera at things the audience might find interesting and not point the camera at things to earn advertising revenue, hoping on one front to point at enough interesting things to avoid getting pulled off the air, and on the other to make enough money to buy more interesting things to point at. But as you meet your targets day after day, hints of a sinister undercurrent begin to emerge. Where did these people come from? Why does every season end with you and the cast having to jump down a chute? And why does the next season always begin with the production assistant talking to us like we've never met before? And how could an interior designer put this house together without wanting to hang themselves on the magenta chandeliers? Now comes the token paragraph where I praise things. I'm always drawn to innovative game design, and the way Crush House gamifies the process of exploiting millennial shitheads is quite interesting. Each day you randomly roll a selection of audiences who'll be tuning in, like foot fetishists and people who are inordinately intrigued by sofa cushions, and have to strategically point the camera at the things that those audiences like as little colourful icons ping off them. Mostly intuitive, but I'm not sure why the symbol for the audience that likes watching girls is a carabiner. Maybe that's some hilarious sex joke for young people that's going over my head, akin to the symbol being a clam or a ham sandwich. While the procedurally generated drama that unfolds between the housemates becomes increasingly repetitive and uninteresting, I fondly recall at one point watching two of them become lovers, snog, move to a different room, and then violently break up. That's arguably intended, as you progress in the plot and become more aware of how the show itself is just a tissue-thin veneer over the real story. It's sort of a time loop game, actually, not unlike 12 Minutes, although the cringe-worthy affection doesn't lead to quite as many incest babies. And speaking of malformed issues, praise time over, let's talk about Crush House's problems. Starting with the superficial, the way it looks. I wouldn't call it repellent, exactly, and grotesque is a pretty strong word. Yeah, apophasia is a pretty strong word as well, isn't it, Yachts? Shut up, you! All the characters have little tiny heads and giant elephantine feet, so they look like forced perspective drawings being looked at wrong. And it doesn't help that the environment looks like someone replaced your contact lenses with candy love hearts. But Crush House's main problem is mechanical. It has set itself the ever-daunting task of making a game out of a creative or artistic process, and as is so often the case, that becomes less about artistry and more about learning to manipulate the system. Much as I found in Bomb Rush Cyberpunk that I could ollie off the fucking bridge of Vladimir Putin's nose and it still wouldn't earn as many spectacle points as circling a fucking grind rail for 15 minutes like the last undercooked blobfish on the midnight sushi train, I swiftly found that actually trying to film an interesting TV show about the housemates was a very efficient way to get booted off the air faster than an Al Jolson makeup tutorial. Filming the character drama only earns you points if there's a drama-liking audience present, and even then the housemates might randomly decide to play Scattergriz all day and leave you scouring the bushes 2 minutes before deadline looking for an aggressive photogenic spider. To counteract that possibility, if you max out one of your audience requests but continue filming the same stuff, it'll count for all your other audiences, which successfully prevents your task becoming impossible but doesn't make a lot of sense in context and incentivizes you to film the same stuff over and over again. One time my random audience consisted of art lovers, the motion sick, and people who like calming television, and so by pointing the camera at a blank artist's canvas and remaining perfectly still for about a minute, I proceeded to set fucking box office records. And meanwhile the housemates could have been having a fucking knife fight across the house and neither I nor the viewing public gave a shit. And as the difficulty ramps up and your audiences get more demanding, this kind of number manipulation becomes essential for beating the game. So after putting in the hours filming static toilets and drinks machines from artful Dutch angles, I'd have all the requirements fulfilled by mid-afternoon, and with nothing else to be gained from filming anything, I just earned money playing ads back to back, while idly seeing if I could clip into the poolside umbrellas. But my feelings for Crush House are mixed, because as boring and repetitive as the core gameplay and housemate interactions got, it was all on theme. Of course the housemates are cardboard cutouts and the audience will happily watch static shots of fucking pot plants. That's reality television. As tissue-thin and suffocatingly banal as a chloroform rag. The real plot only advances when you fulfill the secret objectives the housemates give you on the down low, usually to film them snogging or film their buttocks for 3 minutes straight, which does give you something to strive for, although again, fulfilling them comes down to random chance, and when you get down to where being boring for stylistic reasons doesn't make you less boring. Still, what ultimately clinches a recommendation for Crush House is that it is both interesting enough and not very long. You'll have plenty of time left in the week to complete the reality television experience by watching a farmyard cockfight while slamming your hand in a drawer. This video is sponsored by Incogni. Has this ever happened to you? You've been innocently googling celebrity sex tapes of Flipper, and then a few days later your spouse is asking awkward questions about why we keep getting bottlenose dolphin-related spam email. Well, say goodbye to all of that with Incogni. All I had to do was sign up and press a few buttons, and I could watch from my dashboard as Incogni put a stop to all those sinister online marketers tracking my movements. Now I can browse in confidence, knowing that my marine animal perversions are a little secret between me, Incogni, and the several 100,000 people watching this. All of whom can now go to incogni.com/secondwind and use code SECONDWIND to get 60% off an annual plan. Those main points again, incogni.com/secondwind, use code SECONDWIND, 60% off, I fuck dolphins.